In this video, we're going to learn relational databases and SQL from scratch. This is going to be a crash course that will teach you the fundamentals. By the end of the video, you'll have a good enough understanding to build just about any database application you want. All of the code samples are provided in the link in the description, and every section I tried hard to make it self-contained, so you should be able to start from any section. We can't cover everything in a single video, but by the end you should have a good enough understanding to learn the rest on your own. This video is fast-paced because we have a lot of ground to cover. Check out the timestamps if you're looking for something specific, and if you're looking for a slower-paced, more in-depth tutorial, then check out our course that includes challenges and solutions. Lastly, please subscribe to our channel for more tutorials. And we need to set up a development environment, so check out either of the two following sections, where there's one for installing Mamp on a Macintosh or WAMP on a Windows computer. And if you're on Linux, you're on your own. But go ahead and check out one of those, or if you already have a development environment, then go ahead and skip both of those and just get started in the content. So check out the timestamps to find the right section. I do recommend typically to use Mamp on Mac and then WAMP on Windows. They just seem to be a little bit easier. So let's give this a try and see how it works on a Mac. So go ahead and open up Safari and then type in Mamp. And then mamp.info should be the first result. Mamp and Mamp Pro. The Mamp free version should be perfectly fine. Okay, and I don't think we need those because it says those are for Windows, but I think if you click this one, it should be the correct one. So the one at the top. Okay, Mamp and Mamp Pro 6.6. So I'm going to assume that we want this one because this is Mac OS 11 Plus, and this one is 10.2. So we'll go ahead and click on that one. Do you want to allow downloads on mamp.info? Yes. Oh, right, and that downloaded. Okay, we do not need that. Okay, so I have Mamp Pro, or well, Mamp free downloading, and I will see you when it's finished downloading. Okay, so it is finished, and we can see that by going into our Finder, and we find this Mamp Pro package file. So let's go ahead and, or .pkg, so let's double click it. And here is our installation guide. So I'm gonna hit continue. Continue. To continue installing the software, you must agree to the terms of the software license agreement. Agree. Okay, this will take 1.75 gigabytes of space. Click install. Standard installation. Okay. Enter your password. And it's going to install. Okay, it claims it was successful, so let's see if it works. Hit close. Do you want to move in the installer to the trash? I'll hit yes. Okay, so now if we go to applications in our Finder, there should be something about Mamp. Okay, so we have Mamp Pro and Mamp, and we haven't paid for Mamp Pro. I don't really think we need to, so let's just go to Mamp. Okay, so we have an htdocs folder and this Mamp. So, and I don't actually use this, so I'm assuming if you double click this Mamp icon, it's going to turn it on. And we don't want to try Mamp Pro. So, unfortunately, it's going to give us ads. Okay, but let's hit start. Okay, so it looks like it's working. I'm going to go to a different window and see. Okay, well, okay, it's doing it for me. Okay, so it says welcome to Mamp, and that is cool. So that means it does look like we have our server working. So if you look at here at this little Mamp icon, It says the document root's application, or the root is application mamp htdocs. So this is where we would want to put our project folders. So let's give it a try. So I'm going to open up the Finder window. In this Mamp folder, we have our htdocs folder here. So I click on that, and then if I create a folder here, so I'm going to say new folder, hello world, enter. I'm going to open that folder and then do the little right clicky thing or the double finger thing. And okay, I got to figure out how to open this in a text editor. So if you need help setting up a text editor, then check out the prerequisite videos at the very beginning about installing text editors. So I'm going to assume from this point on that you'll be able to figure out how to open files and folders on your own. Okay, so I went ahead and installed Sublime Text, and I'm going to use that to open up this project. So I'm going to go to Applications. I'm going to double click on Sublime Text. File, open, and then we need to go to our project file. So applications, oops, okay, let me try that again. Sorry, I don't really use Mac that much. So file, open, okay, single click on applications, single click Mamp, and then single click htdocs, and then if you double click Hello World, that should open Hello World and will give us the entire Hello World project. So from here, we can right click and make a new file. And then I'm gonna press Command S to save it into the Hello World folder. And I'm gonna call this file index.php. We'll hit save. And so now we should be able to see a hello world and index.php. And if you click this arrow, you can see that this index.php is inside this hello world. So now we're going to make our hello world program, and we're just going to write an open bracket and a question mark, PHP, and then another question mark, and then a closing bracket. Then we're going to give it a little bit of space. And then inside, we're going to say echo, and then quotes, hello world, and then a semicolon at the end, and then in the next line we're going to say echo 2 plus 2, and then a semicolon, and then Command S or file save. And then now we should be able to open up this project. And so I'm going to shrink this down and look at Mamp. And so it says our applications Mamp htdocs is where all of our projects go, because that's where it says the document root is. So if we do slash and then the name of the project or the name of the folder, it will automatically look for the index.php, and then it will evaluate whatever is in that index.php. So I'm going to go over here to our browser. I'm going to press Command T to open up a new tab. Or you could, I think this one would open up a new tab. Yeah. So now we'll go to localhost 8888/hello world. Enter, and we get hello world 4. And then again, if you click this, you can say 2 plus 2 plus 2, and then save. And if you command refresh, oh, why didn't that save? Or why didn't that update? Okay, so I think I figured it out, and it sounds like the caching is set up in a way that's not optimal. So if we were to, it did end up changing eventually, but let's just do 2 again. So Command save, and we'll see it's not, okay, it did refresh right away. That's interesting. Let's do +2 to make 10, refresh. Okay, so it's not working right away. If I keep pressing Command R and it's not refreshing. So that's a sign that we need to update the cache. So let's go to Preferences in Mamp. and then there should be PHP cache select or something. Yeah, PHP cache off. And then if we hit OK, we may have to restart it, but let's hope for the best. Okay, so now we go back to our localhost project. And now let's say 2 plus 2, we'll go back to that. So it should be 4. I'll hit Command Save. And then if I refresh, it immediately goes to 4. So I refresh a couple times. Let's try 2 plus 2 plus 3. Command Save. And then refresh, and it seems to be working immediately. So Command Save. Okay, so that was the solution for that. Now let's go to our Mamp, or let's go to PHPMyAdmin. So localhost :8888 PHPMyAdmin. If I hit enter, it will reroute me to PHPMyAdmin 5, which is just the version number. Okay, so now we are in PHPMyAdmin, where we're going to do all of our SQL stuff. And so basically we just want to make sure that this works. So let's hit new, and then we'll create a database. So I'm going to call it hello world. I'm going to hit create, and then we should see this new database. And so this is where we can put all of our tables. And so we have this working, and then if we want to delete the database, we can go to SQL tab, and we can hit drop database hello world semicolon, and then we can hit go, and then our database is gone. So we should be all set up, and now if you want to use PHPMyAdmin, that's where we will be going to do SQL. In this section, we're going to install WampServer on Windows, which will allow us to set up a SQL environment, a SQL PHP, and Perl environment. So let's go ahead and go to Chrome, and I'm going to pull it over here. And then we're going to go to WAMP. Well, if you just type in WAMP, it'll take us to WampServer, the first result. You can click on that. And I'm pretty sure you only want to install one or the other. So if you're installing XAMPP, then you don't want to use WAMP. If you install WAMP, you don't want to use XAMPP. So just use one. That's probably the best. So I'm going to hit download, and then you almost always want the 64-bit. I have no idea why it's in a different language. You can something download it directly, hopefully. Hopefully this little download button will work. Okay. Your download will start shortly. Okay, so that is downloading, and I will see you when it is finished. Okay, it's finished downloading, so we can open that up in our downloads folder. So I'm going to open up my file manager, go to downloads, and then let's see, WampServer exe. So go ahead and double click on that. And it'll ask us if we want to allow this app to make changes. I'll hit yes. And then we'll select English. And then I accept the agreement. Next. Okay, and then it says there's a couple warnings. Okay, so you can read those, and then I'm just going to hit next. Okay, and so the default installation looks like it's where it should be. So C drive and then WAMP64. So I'll hit next. And so the reason these aren't installed is because they're older versions of PHP. So all we really care about, or most of us would care about, is 7.4 and above, unless you're working on some legacy or older program. So we'll go ahead and let's see, everything else looks fine. So I'd have to check to see which version we'd want, but I'm pretty sure you can update this also. So I'm gonna just leave the defaults. I'm gonna hit next. To continue, click Next if you would like a different folder. Okay, so WAMP64 should be fine. Okay. I'm going to hit Install. And then it's going to install everything in WAMP64. So I will see you in a moment. Okay, so that finished, and it's giving me a message saying IE Explorer will be used by default. Do you want to choose another browser? I'm going to hit yes. And let's see if Chrome, I don't know. Google, Chrome, application. Oh man, okay, let me hit cancel. Notepad will be used by text editor. Do you want to choose another text editor installed in your system? I'm going to hit yes, and we'll learn. Okay, so it is using the exe file, so that's what you want to select when you're choosing a different text editor. So we have to find where the text editor that we want is. Okay, so it looks like they have some instructions here in WAMP64 / instructions for use.pdf, and then some other places here. So these are the instructions, I guess. So I'll hit next, and then completing the WAMP64 setup wizard. I'll hit finish. Okay, and I'm going to delete the shortcut. Okay, so now if we type in WAMP, we should have this WAMP64 program that we can run. And so I'm going to click on it. Do you want to allow this app to make changes? Yes. And it's going to turn on a bunch of different programs. Okay, and then now we have this little WampServer down here program. So if I click it, we can see our localhost, PHPMyAdmin, adminer, etc., like PHP, all of this stuff. So it looks, because it's green, it looks like it's running. So we can start all services and stop all services. But because it's green, that means they should be started, I think. So let's go to another Chrome window. So, and I'm going to type in localhost. Okay, and so we get localhost. If I do localhost / PHPMyAdmin, it will take us to PHPMyAdmin. And then, so the password is actually nothing. And the username by default is root. So we can hit go. And then it looks like we're in. And so now if we want to make a new database, we can just hit new from our PHPMyAdmin, and we can say hello DB. So I'm going to hit create. Okay, and then here's our database. So we're good to go here. We've tested that works, PHPMyAdmin, and we can use databases. So SQL should be fine. Let's make sure PHP and everything is working. So the way that we do this is we make a new folder like in where the projects are going to be. And so the projects are going to be stored. If you go to this PC, C drive, WAMP64, www is where all of your projects are going to be. So if I make a new folder and call it hello world, I'm going to open this in any text editor. So Visual Studio Code or Sublime Text or whatever you want to use. So I've got this open. I'm going to make a new file called index.php. And then I'm going to type in an opening bracket, a question mark, and then PHP, a question mark, and a closing bracket. I'm going to give it some space. I'm going to say echo hello world from WAMP, semicolon, and then an echo 2 + 2, semicolon, save. And now let's go back to our browser and we'll type in localhost /hello world. Okay, and we get hello world from WAMP 4. So that means PHP is successfully running. And then if we want to turn everything off, we can just go to WAMP, and I think if you click on it, you can hit stop all services. It'll turn red, and then if we refresh, you give it a moment, it will not work anymore because our server has been turned off. So then if you want to turn it back on, click on it, start all services. Turns green, and now it works again. So that is WampServer, and that's how you install WAMP on Windows. So the first thing that we're going to do is log in to our local PHPMyAdmin, and I'm going to go to a browser, type in localhost, and then I am using Windows, so I'm on a WampServer. So we'll go to /PHPMyAdmin, or if you're on Mac, it'll be like, I forget the port number, but I've got it in that other video that you'll follow the instructions, and then we'll have root and then no password. Let go. And we are in. So now to create a database, you have this little sidebar here. There's 2 ways to do it, or at least 2 ways. So I'm going to hit new, and then we can basically just create a database name. And so I'm going to say create database hello world DB. And then there's options here, but I'm just going to leave it as the default for now. We'll just hit create. Okay, and that's been created, and now we can see hello world DB is the database that we've created. And then within the database, there are tables. And so you can see here we have a my app. It's got some tables already. You probably don't have that already, but you can check and see that each of these databases will most likely have some sort of tables in them. So this database that we just created has no tables, but we'll populate those soon. So that's creating a database. And then if you want to delete a database, you can make sure you select the one. You can also see what database is currently selected by looking up here. So currently hello world DB. And then if you have this operations tab, there's a drop the database option. So I'm going to hit drop, and then you are about to destroy, hit OK, and you can see that it's gone. And so the database is no longer. And the other way to create a database is with SQL Code. So I'm going to click on the SQL tab here, and then I'm going to write create database, and then the name of the database, hello world MyDB, semicolon. And then you can also do multi-line, so we can create, after the semicolon, this starts a new line, and we can add another database. So this time I'm going to show you that the capitalization doesn't, I mean, it's best practice to keep everything capitalized, but create database, and then I like pi. So you can see the capitalization isn't exactly, if we hit go, now we have hello world MyDB and I like pi. And so that was creating databases with SQL. And then if we want to delete databases with SQL, we can do that as well. And so I'm going to hit the SQL tab again, and then I'm going to delete a couple databases. So I'm going to say drop database hello world MyDB. So we'll watch this one, and it will go away when I hit go, and it's gone. So now I'm going to hit SQL, and we can also delete multiple databases. And so I don't actually have, I accidentally forgot to delete these from previous tutorials. So I'm going to go ahead and delete them now. If you don't have them, that's fine. Go ahead and create them, but we can delete multiple databases as well. So I have college app. So college app, oops, and it's drop database, my bad. Drop database, college app, semicolon, and then another line, drop database, I like pie, drop database, my app, drop database, off screen, and I think that's it. I don't know if I made test. I'm gonna leave it there. Okay, so we're gonna delete all 4 of these. Okay, so they are gone, and we're starting from scratch. So that is creating and deleting databases. The next thing we're going to do is create tables, and in order to do that, we need a database to put the table in. So I'm going to go back to our SQL tab, and we're going to recreate another table or another database. So this time I'm going to say create database, my app, and then semicolon to create this table. And then before we start writing SQL to add tables, I want to just manually do it in the PHPMyAdmin GUI just to kind of get familiar with it. So what we can do is we can click on my app, and then there is a create table GUI thingy here, and we can name our table. So I'm going to name it users, and then I'm going to give it 4 columns. And you can always add more columns later, but we're just going to start with this and hit go. Okay, and then it gives us 4 columns with the details so we can add our table rows or table columns. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to give it 4 different names for each column. So I'm going to say we'll have a user ID. You can make it all caps if you want. It doesn't really matter at this point. We'll make a first underscore name field, and then a fav color. So we want to track the user's favorite color, and then a has underscore pets to determine whether they have pets or not. And so the next thing is the type. So we have different data types. So like if you wanted an age, that would probably be a number because, you know, age is a number. And then your name would be some sort of text or characters. So a number wouldn't fit. And then has underscore pets can be a Boolean or a number. So a Boolean is like true or false. And so we're going to start with a number for now. We'll get to Booleans a little bit later. But for now, we're going to say user ID is int. So int for integer has a number. And then first underscore name will be a varchar, actually. So there's text and then there's varchar. And I like typically varchar because you can specify the length of basically varchar stands for variable characters. So variable amount of characters. And so in this length value here, we're going to say 55, meaning that this first name field cannot be longer than 55 characters. So we're going to use varchar, and then fav underscore color. We can make again, you can do text or varchar. I'm going to choose varchar, but this time I'm going to make it 10. So this means that we can only have a 10 character or less value in this field. And then has underscore pets, we can make an integer, but there's also different types of integers. So here in this numeric section, there are tiny int, small int, medium int, and big int and int. And so you want to, the smaller the int, the smaller option you choose, the smaller amount of space that it's going to take up. And so if you can choose tiny int, then you should, if you can get away with it, because you don't want to bloat or take up more space than necessary. So most people do not have more than 100. See how if I hover over this, it says a 1-byte integer, -128 to 127, or unsigned 0 to 255. So most people do not have more than 127 pets. So has pets, we should be able to get away with tiny int. So I'm going to say tiny int here, and then the next like thing to actually look at is auto increment. So if we check this AI, then well, you'll also notice that this becomes primary here. And so that means that this user underscore ID is a primary key. And so this field is going to auto increment for us. That means we don't have to fill it out because SQL is going to automatically increment it for us. So the first record is going to be 1, the next one is going to be 2, all the way up until, you know, however big this table gets. And so auto increment helps us make sure that we have unique identifiers, because who knows, there could be more than one John. I mean, I have the same first and last name as my dad, so first name and last name are probably not good unique identifiers. So user ID is helpful with that. And so we've got auto incrementing here, and then the next thing is null. So if you check this null box, that makes the field optional. So first name is kind of important. If this is a pet database or pet application, then has pets is probably important. But fave color seems like it would be an optional field. So I'm going to hit null for the fave underscore color and make this an optional field. And now once I think we're ready to run this code, but before we hit save, you can hit preview SQL to see the equivalent SQL that would have been generated for us. So this is a SQL code that's going to get run when we hit save. And we're going to learn how to do that ourselves in just a moment, but I'm going to hit save. Okay, and so now we have the structure of our table set up and designed for us. And so we have this. So name, first name, fave color, has pets, etc. And so if we look at browse, we can see that we have no rows inside of our table. So we can create some. To create rows in our table, we will click this insert. Again, we're still doing this manually. That's okay. We'll do SQL very soon. So we don't need to fill out user underscore ID. Even though it's a mandatory field, it will get auto incremented for us. First name, on the other hand, we are going to have to fill out. So let's go ahead and give it a name of Bob, I guess. And fave color, we'll say green, I guess. And then has pet is a tiny int. So I'm going to say this Bob has 6 pets. Okay, and so I'm going to hit go. And then I'm going to go back to my browse. And we're going to see that we have now a row. So we have a user in our database. Bob, his favorite color is green. He's got 6 pets, and he is our very first user. And you notice that the user ID, again, auto incremented because we have it set as a primary key with an auto incrementingness of it. So it auto increments. And so the next thing is let's try to create invalid values. So I'm going to go back to insert, and I want to try to create a record with a favorite color that's too long. So I'm going to say Bobby and a favorite color. Again, this is a varchar of 10. So let's try to make a value longer than 10. So I'm going to say A, B, C. Oh, you know what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So this is 14 characters. I know it's not a real color, but let's give it a try. Tiny int of 3. So I'm going to hit go, and it says error, data too long for column fave color at row 1. And that is because, again, it has a maximum character limit of 10. So, and we have exceeded that. So it's going to throw an error. So, and that's what we want. We want to try something else now. How do I get out? Okay, if you click that box, then that'll get out of that, and it'll let you try again. So now let's try, I don't know, yellow. I think that's less than 10. And then let's try to get rid of first name. So first name is a mandatory field. So if I try to hit go now, why did that work? Let's see. Browse. That should not have worked. Oh, you know what? I think it took it as an empty string. Okay, so yeah, I think it did take it as an empty string, and because normally when a field is null, it'll actually say null inside of it. And so that means I can't really demonstrate the optional value either. So because fave color is optional. So if we enter in that as a color, as the first name, and then a fave underscore color with nothing, it says it's null. Oh, you know what? We can actually check the null. So 4. Okay, so, and I think if you have this null check marked, then this will actually have null. So the GUI is actually protecting you from making errors, whereas SQL does not protect you. So check this box and fave color will be null. So if I hit go, okay, hopefully it's null at least. I'll hit browse, and yes, so we get this null. So this means that this fave underscore color field is optional. So anyway, that is creating rows, and well, and then you can also delete. So we'll hit delete here. Okay, so that's creating and deleting rows with the GUI in PHPMyAdmin. Okay, so we're finally ready to start writing code or SQL code to actually create some interesting things. So the first thing we're going to do is create tables with SQL. And if you look up the documentation, it's pretty dense and it's kind of hard to understand, but if you do a Google search for creating tables with SQL, you'll most likely get something like W3 Schools, which has a much simpler kind of explanation, much more basic. So basically this is how we create tables. Create table, and then the name of the table, and then a column name, and then the data type, and then a comma, and then the next column and data type, etc. until you're done. So let's give this a try. So basically we'll go to our SQL tab, and then we will write create table, and we're going to start out with creating an SQL users table, and then again parentheses here, and then column, and then data type. So SQL users, user underscore ID, and then data type will be an int, and then let's add that closing parentheses to get rid of the error, and then we'll do a comma, and then we'll have a first name. So first underscore name, and then the data type here we can do varchar. And so instead of varchar, like in any other one, it was 2 separate fields. You did varchar and then you chose the length. But with SQL, it's just varchar and then parentheses, and then the length goes inside the parentheses. So varchar 55, this is the equivalent. So we have a user ID of type int and a first name of type of varchar with the length of 55. And so this should be good. We'll hit add a semicolon and then hit go. And that'll allow us to create our table. And so you can see that we have here SQL users, and we can look at our structure and we can see that it is created, but there's a couple problems that we're going to run into. So the first thing is if we go to insert and we try to insert like we have done before, so I'll say Bob here in the first name and I'll hit go. It's going to create Bob, but if we look at browse, we see Bob has no user ID. It's a null user ID, and earlier it was auto incrementing. So how do we set that up? Well, let's go ahead and just drop our table and then try it again. And so one thing is I highly recommend copying and pasting or writing these commands down so you can copy and paste them pretty quickly. So drop table, SQL users, hit go, and it's been dropped. So now we can try again. So I'm gonna copy and paste what I had before, go back to the SQL tab, and I'm gonna paste it in here. So we have create table, SQL users, user ID int, and a first name of varchar 55. So we need a way to this user ID was null last time. We need to make sure that it's not null. That null is not an option. So the way that we do that is with the words not null after the data type. And if you look at the documentation here, that's where it will tell you that kind of information. Again, this SQL page is very basic. So I think it might actually tell you about not null, maybe not. But if you look at the documentation and we type in not null, we can see here data type, it has the option of not null or null. And so you can define it that way. So here we'll say user ID is int, a data type of int, but it's also not null. So we hit go. And now if we go to insert and we try to type in Bob without a user ID, we hit go, and it's going to give us an error. And the reason for that is because this is a data type of int. And what we entered here was an empty string because we didn't enter anything. And so an empty string is not a correct integer value. So incorrect integer value, empty string for column user ID. So we need a way to make this not only a mandatory field, but also in a way that it auto increments. So we need to try it one more time. So I'm going to again drop the table. So I go over here to my SQL, paste in this drop table, SQL users, hit go to drop the table. And then I'm going to try again. So I'm going to copy and paste the code that I wrote last time, paste it in. So this is the same thing that we just ran earlier. Create table SQL users, int not null, and a first name with a variable character length of 55. So this didn't quite work, so we need to try one more thing, and that is auto increment. And so we can go back to our documentation and look up Control F auto underscore increment, and there's quite a bit of information here. So I would recommend checking this out. If this is basically where it's used, as you can see shortly after the data type, you set not null, and then we have the option to set auto increment or unique or primary key or whatever. So it is a little difficult to understand this stuff, and a lot of times, to be honest, I just like struggle through it and figure it out and then look at it after the fact, and I can kind of like see, okay, well, this is what they mean. I don't know if that makes sense, but just kind of like reverse engineer the documentation here. But they do talk about auto increment quite a bit here. So if you can check that out. But the long story short here is that we need auto increment to tell this user ID, this integer value, to increase by 1 every time. And you can't increase by 1 on a string. That doesn't make sense. So not null, auto underscore increment. And then if we hit go, it's going to give us an error, incorrect table definition. There can only be one auto column and it must be defined as a key. So we need primary key as well. And so once again, you can check that out here in the documentation. But the long story short, one way to add the primary key is to just add primary key after adding this auto increment. So we've got user ID set to an integer as the data type. It is not null, it's auto incrementing, and it's the primary key. So all of that information stored about the user ID column. So if we hit go now, it should work. So there we go. Let's try to insert something. So here we go. It's not null. And then if we choose not to add a value here, so let's say Bob and Christine, we'll hit go. Okay, 2 rows inserted. Let's look at our browse, and we see user ID of 1 and user ID of 2. So this is enough information that we can recreate some of the tables that we had been working on earlier. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is insert records into the database with SQL. So we're going to use our SQL users table, and then we're going to click on our SQL tab. And so if you need the code, I should have it available in the description or on the page that it's linked to in the description. But create tables, SQL users, here's this code if you need to run that to create the table. I already have the table though still, so anyway, the first thing that we're going to do is insert into. And so if you Google insert into, they have some documentation here. Well, on W3 Schools, it says insert into table name, and then there's a set of parentheses, and then the column name 1, column name 2, etc. And then after the parentheses, you give values. So this column 1 is associated with the value 1, the value 2 is associated with a column 2, etc. And so that's kind of the structure of the command. So if we apply that to our own SQL users, where we have a user ID and a first name, then we can figure out exactly what we need to do. So let's go to SQL, and we have a SQL users. So it's going to be insert into SQL users, and then the first set of parentheses are the column names. So we've got user ID and first name, and then after that is values, and then you enter in the values. So user ID is going to be, well, let's say null, and then the first name will be Cindy. Okay, so I'll hit the semicolon, and then it should auto increment for us. So if we hit, you know what, copy and paste that if you want. I'm gonna hit go, and it says one row inserted. So if I go to browse, I can see Cindy here is user ID of 3, even though I put in null because it auto increments for me. And then if you want to insert multiple values at the same time, this W3 school page doesn't really help, at least not that I can see. So the way that you do that is if you go to the documentation for the insert statement, we can look here. It says insert into table name, and then values. Here's our value list, and then there's also this straight bracket here with a comma and then another value list. So that kind of tells us that we can add an optional more than one value, and these value lists are separated by a comma, and then again parentheses to kind of enclose the value list. So that should give us a hint, and basically if we want to insert more than one, then we just need to have a comma separated list of parentheses with the values inside of them for each row. So insert into SQL users, user underscore ID, first underscore name, and then values, null, and then I'm going to say Frank this time. So null and Frank, comma, and then another row. So null and Jorina, comma, and then null and Emma. Parentheses, close the quotes and the parentheses, semicolon, and so now we've got user ID first name, and so the first row here, the user ID is null, first name is Frank, then a comma, which means now we're at the second row, user ID again is null, first name is Jorina, and then the third row is going to be, once again, user ID is null, and then Emma is the first name. So that's kind of how that works. So let's hit go. We see 3 rows inserted. If we hit browse, we can see that these names have been added, and the user ID is also, once again, taken care of for us with the auto increment. So that is basic inserting of records, both single record and multiple records. Okay, so in this part, I want to talk about deleting tables and duplicating tables. I mean, deleting rows. So before we start that, I would like to back up the table. That way we have something to work with in case we mess up. We have a backup. So the first thing I want to do is insert some records. And so I'm going to provide a piece of code that you can run to generate some records. And so in our SQL, in the MyApp database, I'm going to run this code. Insert into users, user ID, first name, fave color, and has pets. So we've got all of these user IDs are null, and we've got Frank as the first name, blue is the fave color, and then the number of has pets. So we've already covered all this. Insert into users, these values. So I'm going to hit go, and one more thing to point out is you could actually delete all of these nulls and then delete the user ID as well, and then it would just know to put those in because of it's the auto incrementing. But anyway, I'm going to hit go, and that will insert these 10 rows or so, and then now we can learn how to make a backup. So if you look up duplicating a table, I think if you just type in duplicate table or whatever, or copy a table, cloning a table, you may find something like tutorialrepublic.com, which talks about how to do that. And so they have some code here where it says create an empty table and then insert the data into the table. So the first step is create table, the new table name, like the old table name. So we can take this code and we can just run it. So you can copy and paste it into the SQL tab. So I'm gonna go over here and I'm not gonna paste it, I'm just gonna type it in. So we have our users table and we wanna make a users backup. So create table and then the new table. So users underscore backup like the original table. And so the original table is users. So create table users backup like users. We'll hit go. And we have a user's backup now. And if we look at it and we see the structure, we can see that it's exactly like the users table that we had. So let's go back to SQL, and then now we can insert our users tables rows into the users backup because it's currently an empty table right now. We've created the structure, but we haven't actually inserted all the values. So the next step is to insert the values. And so we're going to do insert into users underscore backup. And then the next part is what we're going to actually insert. And so I'm going to run a select statement, which we haven't covered yet, but we're going to very soon. And so I'm going to type in select star from users. And so basically this is saying select everything from the users table. And so basically insert into users backup everything from users. And so if we hit go, it says 12 rows inserted. And now if we browse the users backup, we have all the same rows that are in the users table. So that's pretty much how we back up. And so now we have an exact copy of the users table stored in users underscore backup. So now we can start talking about deleting things. And so whether you want to delete from the users or the user backup is up to you. I'm just going to delete from the users backup. And so what we're going to say is, in order to delete, there's a lot of documentation, but if you just Google it, it says delete from table name and then a where condition. And so we have to specify what and how and why you're going to delete. So basically, the most simple example would be something like delete from users underscore backup where, and then we would have to figure out where, like under what circumstances do we delete. So I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste into a new tab. Oops, not a new window, but a new tab. That way we can see the records that we're dealing with. So if I browse the user's backup, we have all of these records. So let's say I want to delete where the first name is Wendy or the user ID is 11. So we can do that. So I'm going to say where first name is equal to Wendy. So where first underscore name equals Wendy. Okay, I'm going to hit go, enter, and then if I go over here to the other window or the other tab and I refresh, we can see that Wendy is gone. And that's because the deletion was successful. And it also says one row is affected, so the delete command worked. So let's look at this again. And we see we have two values that are null. So if I look, okay, I've got Jackie and Henry that have null fave colors. So how would you do that? Well, the first thing that you may want to try would be something like delete from users underscore backup where fave underscore color equals null. If you hit go, it says 0 rows affected. I'm surprised it didn't error out, but it just says 0 rows affected. So 0 rows meaning it didn't work. It didn't delete, or it didn't find anything to delete. And that's because this isn't actually correct. We don't want fave color equals null. There's another like command where you would say is null. And so the correct way to write this, I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste this. And I'm paste it back in. And instead of fave underscore color equals null, it's just fave color is null. And we'll hit go. Hit OK, and then now it says 2 rows affected. So if I look here and I refresh, we can see that Henry and the other person that had a null value is gone. We had 2 rows with null fave colors, and now we have 0. And that's because this delete is going to delete every record that matches this where conditional. So if you only want to delete one, you most likely want to use the unique identifier. So something like where email address equals, the email, or where the user ID, because the user ID is the unique identifier in that table. So you may want to use the primary key for choosing which row to delete. So anyway, that was deleting multiple values. As long as it fits the where conditional, it will be deleted. And then you can also do some fancy stuff like having and conditionals or. And so let's try it again. I'm going to say delete from users backup where first underscore name equals, and I'll say Amber. So equals Amber, and then you can also use an or conditional to get other things to delete as well. So let's go back here, and we see that we have Frank who has a favorite color of blue. So let's get rid of everybody that has a fave color of blue. So or fave underscore color equals blue. Okay, so Amber and the fave color of blue should be gone. So I'll hit go. And it says 2 rows affected. So Amber, 9, and 5 should be deleted. If I refresh, 5's not here anymore, and I think, what was it, 11? They're both gone. So Amber is gone, and then any user with the fave color of blue is gone. And so that's basically deleting records in SQL. In this section, we're going to talk about altering tables, and we're going to start from scratch just to make sure everybody's on the same page. See the content in the description or the link to the website or somewhere to get this code that I just copied and pasted. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create table users2. You can also duplicate a table with the kind of duplicate or copy, but I kind of want to just keep it simple here. So create table users2. And then insert into users2, and we're going to insert some first name, fave color, and has pets values. So we got that here, and then we have our users2 table with a user ID, first name, fave color, and has pets. So let's hit go. And then let's actually make sure that we're in the users2 table, so it can kind of deceive you here. So click on the users2 table, and then we can click on the structure. And we can see that we have our database structure, our table structure. And so let's say you want to change this first name field to I like pie. So this is first name, just want to change it. So the name field. So we can change that, and it's also a varchar of 55. So if you want to change that, you can go back to the SQL tab. And then the SQL that you would write for that is basically alter table. So there's an alter table command, and you would alter it. That you would select the table that you want to alter. So users2 in our case. And then there's options like add column, remove column, or change. And so in this case, we're going to be using change. So alter table users2 change first underscore name I like pie. And so basically we have the old table name and then the new table name. And so then after the new table name, you tell it what type you want the the data to be. And so we had it as varchar55, so why don't we just keep it like that? So we'll say varchar55. And so now we can hit go, and it says return to an empty result set. Looks like it worked. So let's check out our structure table, our structure of users 2, and we see first name has been replaced with I like pie, but it still has the same data type of varchar55, and everything else is the same. I like pie is kind of a dumb name, so let's change it back to first name. So SQL, and then alter table users 2, change, and then the old name, and then the new name. So I like pie is now, it was the current one, and then we're changing it to first name. And then we're going to keep the varchar of a 55. Okay, so hit go, and that should work to change it back. So hit the structure, and it's back to first name. So we're good there. And then as far as removing columns, we can do that as well. So I want to drop the column fave color. Let's just pretend that we don't need it anymore. We can get rid of it. So we'll drop that column. And then I also want to change has pets to num of pets, because has pets sounds like it's a Boolean. That sounds like, you know, yes, I have pets, or no, I don't have pets, but it's giving us an integer. So you can enter 4 or 6 or whatever. And so that's not really good like naming conventions. So we're going to change this to num of pets. And then afterwards, if you want, we can add a new column called has pets. So we can change where you can add a new column, has pets, and make that a Boolean. So true or false value. And so the correct type for a true or false is bit. And so anyway, we are going to change this column to num of pets, and then we're going to add a new has pets. So let's go ahead and do that. SQL, and the code for this is alter table users 2, which is the table that we want to edit. And then the first thing that we want to do is drop column fave underscore color, and then I'll add a comma for the next kind of a command. And so after dropping the column, we want to change has underscore pets to num of pets, and we'll make this a tiny int. So tiny int. So the user can have anywhere from -100 something to 127 pets or so. So with the tiny int data type. So that is changing of the column from has pets to num of pets. And then if we want to add a new column, we can do that. So it's add column, and then has underscore pets, which is the name of the column that we're adding. And then the data type, so we're going to add bit this time. So bit is, again, true or false, but it's represented as a 0 or 1. So 0 is false and 1 is true. And so this should make quite a few changes to our database, or our table. So I'll hit go. Yes, I want to do this. And then if you look at the structure, we see that we have no fave color. It's been removed completely. And then num of pets is a tiny int, and then has pets is a bit. So that's what we wanted to do, and we can see that things are how we want them to be, the changes that we made. So the next thing that I'd like to do is show you how do we edit this user underscore ID. I don't like how it's all caps. Let's change it to a lowercase. And we have a couple problems because of this auto increment and it being the primary key. So let's give it a try. And I'd rather just start over, so just in case there's any errors or anything. So we're going to hit SQL, and we're just going to drop everything. So I'm going to say drop table users 2, and then go. Okay. And then we want to repopulate the users 2 table with the exact same data that we had before. So I'm going back to my SQL tab. I'm going to copy and paste the code that I had earlier. Paste this in. So we have creating the users 2 table, and then we're inserting the first name, fave color, and has pets. Okay, so I'm going to hit go. And this adds the rows and the data to the users2 table. And then now we want to change the user ID. So we currently have in all caps. I want to change it to a lowercase. So I'll hit SQL, and then we'll say alter table users2, and I'm going to say change column user underscore ID to lowercase user underscore ID, which is common sense here. That's what we would think that we would need to do. So user ID to lowercase user ID, and then the data type. So int. And so I'm not going to walk through every single step of this problem, but basically, long story short, you have to have this int and not null, because if you just put it as int, then it's going to allow nullable values, and so the auto increment thing is going to break. So let's give this a quick try here. So int not null, I'm going to hit go. Oh, and unfortunately SQL errors aren't that helpful, so it just says syntax error, and the error that I'm dealing with is column is spelled wrong, so it's column with an MN. And so anyway, change column user ID to lowercase user ID, and we're setting the data type as int and not null. So it cannot have a null value in the field. So if we hit go, then we can try to add some users. So I'm going to use this in the insert here, and I'm going to say first name, we'll say Joe, fave color red, has pets 4. And that's because we edited this table, but then we deleted it, and so we got the original value, the original column structure back. So anyway, we'll hit go, and now we're getting an error. It says incorrect integer value empty string for column user underscore ID. User underscore ID is a type of int. An integer is a number, and so an empty string is not a number, and so that will not work. So the problem is that we need to not just int and not null, but we need to tell it that this lowercase user ID is also an auto increment. So we need to change that as well. So let's go ahead and drop the table one more time and start over, just to kind of make sure we're all on the same page at all times. So I'm going to say drop users2, or no, drop table users2. Okay, semicolon and go. Yes. Okay, and then we'll hit SQL, and then paste in our insert into users2 and our create table users2. So I'm gonna hit go. Okay, so this table has been created once again, and the rows have been inserted, so we're good here. And so now if I want to go to the structure and I want to change this capital user ID to a lowercase, let's try it one more time. And I'm going to go to the SQL tab, and I'm going to say alter table users 2, and then change column user underscore ID all caps to lowercase, and then we're going to say int not null, and then basically all you need is auto increment as well, and that should be good. So if we hit go, now let's try inserting records, and we'll try to avoid adding anything in the user ID. So I'm going to say ER for the first name, E for the favorite color, and 4 for pets, for has pets. Go, and if we go to our browse, we can see that ER has been auto incremented, so we now have a fully working table, and we're good to go. I want to show you one more thing, and that is that you cannot change a column to null or not null if there's a null value. So let's look at this fave color here. We have 2 null values. These are like basically saying that this doesn't exist. And that's allowed currently, but if we try to change this fave color to like make it mandatory, it's not going to work because we have null values in the data. So what we have to do is we have to get rid of those null values. But let's give it a try. So we'll go to SQL, and then we'll say alter table users to change, and let's do fave underscore color. Let's change it to the same name as it is, and then it is a, I don't remember, varchar, we'll say 20 something, and let's say it's not null. We want it to be not null, and I'm gonna hit go. It's not gonna work. Data truncated for column, and I don't like that error. It doesn't make any sense, but oh well. So if you go to browse and you edit these values, so fave color now has a value, and then here in this Henry one, we also need to give it a value. Let go. Okay, and then now that there's no null values in the fave color, we are allowed to change the fave color to a mandatory field, or by not null. So let's go back to SQL, and we'll say alter table users to change fave underscore color varchar 20 and not null. Let go. I'm going to copy that, hit go, and now it worked. And so now fave color is mandatory. And so that's pretty much it for altering tables. In this section, we are going to talk about updating rows in existing tables. So first we're going to drop a table and start over. So drop table users to, hit go, and OK. And then I've got a new section of code to add, to insert into this for updating. So I've got create table users to, so it's still that, but just check around for an update rows section. So create table users to, we've added, well, fave color, num of pets, and has pets, which is a type of bit. And then these has pets values are all going to be null. And we do that by not putting anything in that record. So that's basically how we're doing that. We'll hit go. And then our data is going to have a bunch of has pets fields with null. And let's go ahead and get started. So we'll go to our SQL tab. And the first update that I want to try making is setting the first name of a Frank to be capitalized correctly, and then we can adjust his number of pets. And so you can look up the, how to update SQL command, or how to update code in SQL. It's pretty simple, and you'll find simple explanations on sites like W3 Schools. And then if you need some advanced stuff, you can check out the documentation. But here is just a simple explanation. So update the table name, and then you set the column equal to the value that you want it to be, and then you set a where condition. So where user ID equals 2, or where first name equals Bob, or something like that. So that's pretty much it. And let's go to our local host, and if we hit browse, I want to see like what we're actually going to go for. So first name Frank shouldn't be all caps, and then we can adjust the number of pets from 6 to like some other number. So let's go back to our SQL, and then we'll say update and the table name. So we're working on users to. So we're going to set the first underscore name equals to Frank with proper capitalization, and then num of pets equals 2. And you also have a comma between each of the column updates. And then on the next line, we can say where first name equals Frank. And then a semicolon. And so this is saying where, and then it tries to find something that matches. So any column where the first name is or any value in any row where the first underscore name has a value of Frank, it's going to run this update. So there's only one in this example, so only one row is going to be updated. But if we hit go, and then we go back to browse, we can see Frank is now capitalized properly and he only has 2 pets. So the next thing is I want to show you how this bit field works. So this is a Boolean, and so 0 is false and 1 is true. But the SQL or MySQL is smart enough to know that true is equal to 1. So you can actually do something like set true or 1. So let's give it a try. I want to update users 2 and set the fav color equals brown, num of pets equals 4. This is just random stuff. It could go on to anybody. So brown and num of pets equals 4, has underscore pets equals true. And so we could do capitalized true, lowercase true. That doesn't matter. Well, it shouldn't at least. So where user ID equals, say 5. So if we hit go, notice we said has underscore pets equals all caps true. But if we go over here, we see ID number 5, favorite color is, favorite color is brown, and then has pets is not all true, it's 1, which represents true. So that's basically how that works. And then let's update multiple records at the same time. So if you want to update has pets, so all of these are false by default, you can do that because the where condition is going to update all of the records that have a match. So all we need to do is say where, and then where a condition is met by multiple rows. So all of these have a null. So if we say where has pets is null, then all of those will be updated. So if we want to set all of them equal to false by default, then we would just say update users to set has underscore pets equals false. Or you could do 0 or false. So let's try lowercase false this time. And then where, and then the condition. So we're changing has pets equals to false, where all of the where the has pets field is null. And so has pets, column name, and then the value. And so it is null. So semicolon, we'll hit go, 9 rows affected. So browse, and now we've get has underscore pets is 0. So that is how you do multi-row updates and single row updates. And typically, if you're gonna do like a user profile page update or something, the person would be logged in, and then it would grab the info by their user ID or something, and then it would just do the update on that, and that would ensure that you're only updating one person or one profile or one row. So anyway, that is updating rows. In this section, we're going to learn more about selecting rows and using the where condition to get the exact data that you need from your SQL queries. And so in order to do this, we're going to need to get on the same page again. I'm going to create a new table, and this is going to be called pets. There's some code that you can copy and paste, and then we can work with it. So we're creating table pets with a pet name, class, age, family, owner, and owner gender, and then we're inserting into values a bunch of pet names, the owners, and the owner gender. And so this isn't using best practices for the database or the tables yet, but we're really just focusing on the querying of the data right now. So we'll worry about that later. Anyway, so now we have a pets table, and if we look at the data, we get our data here. So we can start querying for stuff. So let's say the first thing that we want to do is just get everything from this table. So we can go to our SQL tab, and then in order to get everything, you basically use the star. So it would be something like select star where, select star from pets. And you can do this on same line or break it up into multiple lines. I kind of like breaking it up. Select everything from pets is basically what this is saying. So if we hit go, we get all of the records back. And I recommend just Googling these things. So Google like select SQL or star SQL. And so that will kind of, give you some documentation to read. So we got everything. And now if we want to get the pet name only, we can basically just swap out the star with the column name that you want. So if we want the pet name, we would just say select pet underscore name, and then from the table that we're looking in. So from pets. So if I hit go, now we're going to get only the pet name. And I would have thought there would be more. How many is that? I don't know. Oh, 35. So yeah, if you make sure that if you're only getting 25 and you expected more, then check out this number of rows thing here to get more. But anyway, this gets only the pet name. And so if you want multiple columns, you can separate the columns by comma. So we can, we'll go back to our SQL and we'll say select, let's say we want the pet name in the family, pet underscore name, family, from pets. So we hit go, and we get the pet name and the family. And if you want to filter results, so let's say I only want to get the owners where the class of the animal is a reptile. So let's look at our pets table, and we see we have class here. And so we've got mammal, bird, reptile, plant, etc. So let's say you only want to get the owner names where the class is a reptile. So we've got 1, 2, 3. Looks like we got 3 reptiles. So let's give that a try. Well, actually, maybe more because we're only showing 25, but we'll go to SQL and we'll try to filter for just the reptiles. And that's where you use the where condition. So let's first get the owner. So we'll say select owner from pets. So get only the owner column from the pets table, but after this, we add our where conditional. So we say where the class is equal to the reptile. So that means if the class is equal to mammal, don't give us back that result. So only give it back if it's a reptile. So we'll hit go, and we get Allison, John, Judy, Zaina, Curtis, Caroline, and Jason. So we get about 6 or 7 records. I'm not exactly sure. Oh, I think this one's 0. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so that's basically how that works. And I did notice that we have a lowercase reptile in there. So let's just get the class as well. So I'm going to hit copy. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste it in. And so now I want to see if it's going to get only the classes with a capital R for reptile, or if it's going to get all of them, because there's a lowercase reptile class in there too. So select owner and class from, and let's split this. So from pets, where class equals reptile. We'll hit go. Okay, so class, and it looks like it is getting by default a case insensitivity. So anyway, this is how we get owners that own a reptile. And this is also shows us how we can get multiple columns with a where conditional as well. So we got owner and class, and you can add pet name, you can add whatever you want. Or as long as the column exists, you can add it. So now let's try to see, let's get all of the female reptile owners. So any owner who is a female and owns a reptile will want to query for those people. So if you go back to your SQL, we basically just have to optimize or update the where conditional. So I'm going to say select owner from pets where class equals reptile and owner gender is equal to female. So now if we hit go, we get Allison, Judy, Zena, and Caroline. But I'm curious to know what pets they actually own. So let's copy this, SQL, and we'll paste this in here. And then let's say, you know what, I actually don't remember. What is it? Pet name and family. So let's say pet name family. So we'll hit go. Okay, so a couple of them own dragons and another one owns an iguana. So that is cool. And the next thing is we can do more advanced queries, like with ands and ors. You can combine them together. So let's say you want to get all of the males owning reptiles and all of the females who own a bird. You can combine ands and ors together. And I like to use parentheses just to kind of make it easier to compartmentalize each portion of the query. So we'll see how that works in just a moment. So if we're going to get owners owning, or the males owning reptiles and females owning a bird, we'll probably want to get the owner, the class of the animal, family of the animal, and then the owner underscore gender, just to make sure that we are getting the right values. Okay, so we're selecting from the pets table. So from pets and the condition. So where, and so you can use and you can use or. So we can use them together. So I'm going to make a set of parentheses and I'm going to get the male reptile owners. So class equals reptile and owner underscore gender equals male. So I'm getting all of these columns from the pets table where the class is equal to reptile and owner gender equals male. And so I also want to get the female owners who own a bird. And so this parentheses separates the entire male portion of the query, but we will also want the females. So I would say return this or the female bird owners. And so in this set of parentheses, I'm going to make a query for just bird owners who are female. So if the class is equal to bird and the owner gender is female, then we can return that as well. So we're saying get all males who own a reptile or all the females who own a bird. And that is it. So I'm going to hit, well, I guess you can copy it if you want. I'm going to hit go. Oops. Go. Okay. And so we get a male who owns a snake. His name is John. We get owner, a female who owns an eagle, a female who owns a parakeet, and 2 more males who own reptiles. So we can see that this query is correct, and we were able to use multiple, we were able to chain and use multiple ands and or conditionals together. Okay, so the next thing is the pattern matching or regular expressions. And so if you want to get all names that start with C, for example, all pet names, we could do something like select pet underscore name class family from pets table where pet underscore name, and then we use a thing called like. So like, and then we can do some pattern matching. And so if we want to get all of the pets that start with a C, then we enter C and then a percentage sign. And so the percentage sign is kind of like a variable. So that it starts with C, and then this is like a variable anything else after C. So hopefully that makes sense. So let's just hit go. And we can see all of the pets here start with C. And yeah, oh, our pet name. Oops, I didn't. No, I did. Oh, okay, I messed up. I'm sorry. Let me copy this. Paste it. Okay, pet name, comma, class. Family. We'll hit go. Okay, so now we get pet name, class, and family. Okay, so the pet name starts with the letter C. All of them, because that's what we've defined here. And so if you want to get anything that ends with a letter, then you just put the percentage sign on the other side. And so that would mean that, here's the variable amount of text, and then it ends with, whatever character you put in. So let's go back to our SQL, and we'll try to get everything that ends with an E this time. So I'm going to say select pet underscore name class family from pets where the pet underscore name is like and percentage sign ends with E. Okay, so I hit go. And now we can see every name here ends with E. And so that's some basic pattern matching. And then finally, if you want to get all rows with text in a certain column that is anywhere in the column, then what do you think that you would want to do? The answer would be just put parentheses on both sides. So, and there's a lot of stuff that you can do with this. This goes much deeper than what I'm showing you here. So you can Google SQL pattern matching or SQL regular expressions, and you can get a lot of information on that. And so if I click here, there's going to be some information. And okay, so we can talk about the like command. So I would read about that. I would read about regular expressions in SQL, and you can get pretty much anything you want. So anyway, I want to show you just combining everything. So now we'll get all pet names that have an E or a Y anywhere in the string. So I'm going to say select pet underscore name class family from pets where pet underscore name is like, and then percentage E percentage, or the pet underscore name is like percentage Y percentage. Okay, so we'll hit go. And now everything is going to have an E or a Y in it. So Y, E, 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 Y. Quite a few. Everything has a Y or an E. So Willie's got a Y. And it finds them anywhere in the pet name. So hopefully that makes sense. That's basic pattern matching. And then I want to copy and paste this. And I want to say let's only get 10 results. So we're getting 21 right now. Maybe that's too many. So let's copy and paste this. Okay, select pet name, class, family from pets, where pet name is like this. And then we're going to say limit 10 to only get 10 results. I'm also going to copy it. Go. And so now we're only getting 10 results. And the next thing is you can order by fields. So you can alphabetize. So I'm going to hit SQL. I'm going to hit paste from the previous command that we did. Okay, so I limited it by 10, but you can also order by. So if you want to alphabetize by class, we can just say order by class, limit 10. And so this is going to alphabetize by class. So I hit go, and then we look at class, and we've got A, B, F, M. So it's alphabetized. And if you want to reverse alphabetize it, we can go back to our SQL, and then we can just paste, and oops, I forgot to copy the other one. But anyway, order by class, and by default it's ASC, which stands for ascending, but if you do DESC, that stands for descending. So it's going to reverse the alphabetization. So I hit go. And now we're getting reptiles, plants, M for mammal. So it goes backwards now. And so that is a very basic understanding of select and where. And so you basically just have to Google what it is specifically that you're looking for. So say I want pagination, right? I've limited this to 10 results, but what about page 2? So I get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 results. So I need to. So for page 2, I need to skip the first results. So maybe I could type in SQL skip rows. You can use autocomplete as well. So, and here's some examples, or here's an answer. And so you just kind of got to look and figure it out. But hopefully this was a good enough introduction to help you figure out things we didn't cover on your own. In this section, we're going to cover inner joins, and we are going to take a look at some of the code that we had before, or the tables that we had before. So in the last section, we were selecting data from a pets table, and it had some duplicate data. So the first example here is these first 2 rows. Both of these owners are named John. And so, well, the first question is, is this the same John, or is it a different John? I don't know. And what about the, say if you want more information about John, like you want his salary and location, so you can, and personality, so you can figure out what kind of pet is the best for him. Well, you would have to put all of this information in the same table, and then you would have it multiple times. So we'd have his salary like 5 or 6 times, depending on how many pets he has. And so that's all duplicate data. So you would have to go and update that data in multiple places. And if just gets to be a pain in the butt and not effective or efficient, and it wastes a lot of space. So you want to split the table up and join them together. And that way you can have the information about a thing one time throughout the entire database. So we need inner joins, and I'm going to create some code here for you to paste and copy. So we also need to get rid of some of the old stuff that we had. So I'm going to drop the table pets, and if you have an owner's table or anything like that, go ahead and drop that as well. So let's go back to our editor here. I'm going to say drop table pets. You can drop table owners if you want to, or users, or you can just, switch to a new database. And anyway, we have the pets table gone. So now let's go back to our SQL tab, and I'm going to paste in this create table owners and this insert into owners. And then we're going to create a table pets, and then we're going to insert into pets. And then we're going to insert another set of pets that don't have an owner ID. Okay, so let's copy this and paste here. So we'll paste this, and this is like 4 different commands that have all been added. Oops, what happened? Okay, there we go. Make sure you add a semicolon there. And oops, a semicolon here. And the semicolon here. Sorry about that. I will fix that so you don't have to worry about that. So we'll hit go. And then we have created 2 tables, pets and owners. So if you look at pets, the pets have an owner ID. So owner underscore ID. And this owner ID is known as a foreign field, and it represents another table. So owner underscore ID is 13, so that represents the owner ID of 13 in the owners table. So owners table, ID of 13, it represents John, who is a cook and is 47 years old. So that's just two tables that we created and inserted. That's all that it is. Okay, so let's join these tables together. And the first thing I want to do is just give a quick refresher command. And I also want to open up a new tab. So localhost PHPMyAdmin, or port 3000 or whatever it is for Mac users. And we'll go ahead and click on SQL. And then I'm going to use this table here, or this tab over here, as like a reference. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I want to say, let's just get let's get the owner. So I'm going to say select star from owners where name equals John. I just want to get the owner. That way I can kind of like see what information I'm looking for. So I'll hit go. Oh no. No database selected. Oh, okay. So let me click my app. I think it's my app. Okay, I'll type that in again. So select star from owners where name equals John. Okay, hit go, and we get owner ID of 13, name is John, gender is male, age 47, occupation cook. Okay, so this is the data that we're looking for. And, well, I guess maybe I can open another one. Localhost PHPMyAdmin. Select the My App database and hit the SQL tab. Okay, so we have John, ID of 13. And then let's try to get the pets. So if I want to know which pets belong to John, well, we can look at the pets table. So if we go over here and click on pets, we can see that we have the pet IDs, but there's also the owner ID. And so every owner ID where that is 13 belongs to John, because we can see his owner ID is 13 here. So let's see, 13, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 pets. So PJ, Buffy, Skeeter, and Moonlight are his pets. So we can query for the pets table where the owner ID is 13. That's probably the easiest way to get that information about John or his pets. So let's do select pet underscore name family from pets where owner underscore ID equals 13. Semicolon, go. And then we get PJ, Buffy, Skeeter, and Moonlight. So those are our pets, or pets for John. So how do we join these tables together so we can get all of this information in one query? The answer to that is to use an inner join. And basically what it is you're joining 2 tables together on a shared column value. So if we look at the pets table, we see that there's an owner ID of 13, and then the owners table has an ID of 13. So we're going to say where the pets.ownerID is equal to the owners.ownerID, then we're going to match those together, and we're going to take that the column from one table and put it next to the column from the other table, or the row. So for example, we have pets here where the owner ID is 13. So imagine cutting this row out where the owner ID is 13 I'm pasting it side by side next to the owner ID of 13 here. So we could have John, male, 47, cook, and then the pet information where the owner ID was 13. And because there's multiple, then we would end up having multiple rows, but it's still one query and it's a temporary like duplication. So it's much better than storing the information multiple times in the same table. So that's what we have to do. That's how you would envision that. And let's go ahead and run the SQL code for that. I forget which one I was using, but we'll click here and we're going to do the inner join now. So when you're doing an inner join, you have to be specific. Well, you don't have to be, but in some cases you have to be specific about what table you're trying to get the column from. So select, and then you say the table name and then the column. So owners.name, comma, and that will get the owners, the name and the owners table. And then owners.age, owners.owner_ID, pet, and then if you want the pets information, you would go to the pets table. So pets.pet_name, pets.family, pets.age. And it will work if like without the specificity. So owner ID may work if there's no other owner ID in the other table. So, but yeah, so it's better to be specific, long story short. So pets.age, we're getting all of those fields and we're going to get them from the owners table. Kind of, I mean, we're joining the tables together onto owners. So it's kind of the owners table, even though it's joined together. So the only reason we can get all these fields from owners is because we're joining them together. So anyway, from owners, and then inner join is where we join the other table. So inner join pets. So we're getting the from owners, but we're joining pets onto owners. So inner join pets on, and then now we have to find a common value. And so again, the owners.ownerID and the pets.ownerID are the shared values. So we can join on those columns. So owners.ownerID is equal to pets.owner_ID. And then we don't want everybody, we just want where the owner ID is 13. So then we can have our where conditional. So where owners.owner_ID equals 13. Okay, semicolon and go. And we get John multiple times, once for each of his pets. So John has a pet name of PJ, he has a Buffy, etc. The age 14, 15, etc. And so now we have all of John's pet information in a single query. And so that is, in a nutshell, inner joins. So in this section, we're going to use the same tables that we used in the last one. If you need the content, then go ahead and copy and paste it. Just find it in the section, either on the link on the website or something. It should be somewhere in the description. But we're going to start with our basic inner join first before we cover left and right joins. So the first thing I wanted to do was the basic inner join. So we're going to say select owners.name, owners.age, owners.owner_ID, pets.pet_name, pets.family, pets.age, from owners, inner join pets on owners.owner_ID equal to pets.owner_ID, where owners.ownerID is equal to 13. So I'm going to copy this and hit go, and it works. And then before we keep going, I do want to show you that ambiguous names are fine if there's only that name, that column name in one table. So for example, name is fine because in the pets table, it's called pet name. So we can run this kind of query. So I'll hit go and it works. So if I go back to SQL and paste this and do owner ID though, I don't think that's going to work because we'll hit go. Yeah, and it's not going to work because both the ID field is named owner ID in both the pets and the owners table. So we have to be specific in this case. So I want the owners.owner ID, etc. So if, yeah, hopefully that makes sense. You can use ambiguous names if there's only one table with that column name. So anyway, let's see. Okay, so we have our inner join. So let's go ahead and run this code again. And then I'm going to close out these other tabs here. I want to open up a couple tabs just to kind of see the difference. So I'm going to go to localhost, PHPMyAdmin. And we did an inner join here. And so I want to do a left join here. So I'm going to paste this all in. Oh, you know what? And I need to get rid of. So in the far left tab, we're going to get rid of this conditional here. So I'm going to hit go. And then we got 50 results here. Or wait. Yeah, so this is our inner join. And then our middle one, I want to do a left join. So I'm going to say left join. We're going to hit go. Oops, no database selected. Okay. Copy this. I'm going to select my app or whatever database that all these tables are in for you. Okay, so left join on this one and a inner join on this one. And I'm sorry, we actually need to do without the where ID is 13. So we'll get rid of the where owners.owner ID line. And then we'll hit go. Okay, so hopefully that is correct. I don't know. We'll find out. Okay, so there we go. So if you, on the left tab, we have a inner join. And then in the middle, we have a left join. And then also make sure to show more than 25 rows. And then in this last tab, I want to do a right join. So we'll select a database or the correct database and then SQL tab, paste this in, get rid of the where owners.id is 13, and then we'll do right join. Okay, and so now we'll hit go, and now we can see, oh well, okay, and now let's add 50. Okay, so in the inner join, let's scroll to the bottom, and there's nothing really that special. But if you go to the left join, you look down here at the bottom, and you see the right side of the table has null values. So the pet name, family, and age are null. If you look at the right join and you go down, you can see that the left side of the table is null. So the name, age, and owner ID of the owner are null. And so what's going on here? So the easiest way to start is to look at the inner join. So when we look at the inner join, we see that there are fewer records. So there's 35 results. And then if you look at the other ones, there's 39, and then there's 39. Well, or 40 technically. So what are those other 5? So this one here, or the 4, so the inner join only returns a result when there's a matching join. So when there's an owner.owner ID that is equal to the pets.owner ID. So it's only going to return a result when the pet has the owner and the owner has the pet. So a left join, on the other hand, is going to return all of the result set even if there's no match on this owners.ownerID equals pets.ownerID. And so what this helps with is finding things like, okay, here's all the owners, and here's their pets. So John is PJ, John is Buffy, etc. But if you look down here, we get pets without owners. So owners without pets. So Amy does not have a pet. But she's still showing up in the results set because of the left join. So the owners are on the left side of the table. So something, something, something from owners. So the owners are the left side, which means that we're always going to show the results from the left side of the table, even if there's no match. And so on the right join, it's the opposite. So the right join, we look down here and we end up finding pets without owners. And so this is a perfect, if you're thinking like an app perspective, this would be a way to connect pets without owners and owners without pets together so they can be in harmony. But hopefully that makes sense. The right join is just getting all of the results on the right side of the table regardless of whether or not there's a match. So that is basically left and right joins. In this section, we're going to do one-to-many relationships and foreign key constraints. So I'm going to start over once again, just to be on the same page. So I've already dropped the pets table on the owners table. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to create the owners table and insert into the owners table. And then we're going to create the table pets, and then we're going to insert into the pets table all of the data that we did before. So nothing special here, just what we've already been doing. So I paste all this in and I hit go. And you don't even have to do this if you have been following along so far. But if we look at our data in the owners table, we have a owner ID or an owner John with the ID of 13. If we delete him and then we go look at our pets, we still have his pets, owner ID of 13. So what happens? This is going to break our application, most likely at least. And so we have a problem. We need to figure out what to do with these pets. Do we delete them? Or do we prevent the owner from being deleted? Or do we nullify the owner ID? What do we do? So, this is where foreign key constraints come in. So basically what we can do is make the relationship between the two tables official. So right now we have this owner ID, but it's just an owner ID. It's not an actual official relationship. And so we need to set up the foreign key constraint to make it official. So let's give this a try. And the first thing we're going to do is once again start over. So I want to drop table pets, drop table owners. I'm going to hit go. And then I'm going to first create the table owners. And we're going to create this separately this time. So I'm going to say create table owners owner ID int not null auto increment name varchar 20 not null gender varchar 20 age of tiny int occupation let's do lowercase occupation varchar 30. And then I don't know if I've talked about this already, but the other way that you can set the primary key is at the end of the creating of the table. You can just say primary key, and then you can tell the command which of these fields is the primary key. And so in our case, it's owner underscore ID. So primary key is owner ID. And then we have to close this command out. And then, so it's pretty much the same thing that we've been doing, but I don't remember if I've talked about this or not yet, but It's just creating the primary key. So everything's the same so far, except we need to create an engine type. So we need to say that this is the NODB engine. And so depending on what version of MySQL you're using, you may end up with MyIsAm. And so you don't want that. You want, well, if you want foreign key constraints, you need to use the NODB engine. So we can do engine equals NODB. And then a semicolon, and that will create our owners table. So we'll go ahead and create it. And now we have an NODB engine owners table, and we can insert data into it like normal. So I'm going to copy and paste the insertion code here, paste it here. So insert into owners, all of these values, just like normal. So we hit go, and those rows have been inserted. So now we need to create the pets table. So I'm going to create the table, the pets table, and we're going to set a foreign key this time. And so by properly setting foreign keys and constraints, you can actually set up a relationship between two tables where if, like, so in our example, if you delete an owner, then all of the pets inside of the owners will be deleted as well. Or you can set the owner IDs on the pets table to null, or you can do nothing, or there's a few other options. So there's Cascade, which is where all of the pets would be deleted. And then the set null, the ID would be set to null. Or you can restrict, which prevents the owner from being deleted until the pets are deleted first. So there's a couple different options. And if you look up these referential actions here, then you can kind of read more about that. So what we need to do is we need to set a foreign key constraint and a foreign key. So on the pets table, I'm going to go ahead and paste the create table pets that we've been using. So it basically is just create table pets, pet ID, int not null auto increment. We have a pet name that's not null, a class, age, a family, and an owner underscore ID. And so we've already set the primary key to pet ID, but we need to set the foreign key as well. And so how we do that is basically almost exactly like how we did the primary key. We just say foreign key and define which of these columns is the foreign key. And that in our case is owner underscore ID. So the owner ID belongs to the owners table. So it's in the pets table, so it's a foreign key. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to add a comma after primary key here. Okay, so the foreign key is the owner ID, and we have to say what table this owner ID is referencing. So references the owners table. And what column in the owners table? The owner ID. So that's pretty much how we do it. And then there's one more thing, and we have to say, what happens on delete. So do we restrict, cascade, set null, or what? So by default it's restrict, but we're just going to stick with the default anyway. So I've got this references on delete restrict. I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste it, or copy it for later use. But I'm going to hit go. And so now our pets table is created. Well, okay, so I'm going to save it somewhere so I can use it, but we do have to insert data into our pets now. So I am copying the insert pets command that we've used a couple times. Here in the SQL, I'm going to insert it. So insert into pets all of our pets with their owner IDs. We hit go. And then now there's a relationship between the owners and the pets. And so hopefully, if we did it correctly, we should not be able to delete an owner that has a pet. So here we have John. I try to delete him, and it works. And that's because we did something wrong. So we still have the owner ID of 13. So we here in the pets table, meaning we still have pets inside the database that belong to a user that doesn't exist anymore. So that's not good. We have invalid data. this owner ID does not exist anymore. So we can't have these pets here, or we need to set them to null or do something else. So the thing that we missed was our creating the table. We didn't set the engine to NODB, and NODB or MyISAM, which is what I'm using by default, does not support foreign key restraints. So we need to change that table back to an NODB. So I'm going to go ahead and just drop the table. So I'm going to say drop table pets go. That drops the table. And then we'll go back to our SQL, and I'm going to create the table again. So I copied it and pasted it somewhere else. That way I could use it. So we've got this create table pets with all of our columns. And then we've got a primary key set to pet ID, foreign key set to owner ID, and the owner ID foreign key references the owner's table's owner ID column. And then what do we do when we delete the parent table or the other a row in the other table? Well, we would on delete restrict. So we're going to prevent the user from being deleted unless they don't have any pets. So and again, the missing piece here was the engine. So we need to set engine equals NODB. Okay, so let's hit go. We recreated the table. Now we need to populate the table because it's empty. So I'm going to go back to SQL, and then I'm going to insert all the pets. And so I'm going to get the pets, and I'm going to get the pets without owners. So I'm going to copy it, paste it in, hit go. Okay, and I think we're getting an error. It says cannot add or update a child row. A foreign key constraint fails. And so I think what's happening is we're adding the owner ID of 13 without the owner. So the owner still doesn't exist because we were messing around with it earlier. So we have this missing owner here. So we need to fix that. And I think the easiest way is just to go into insert and add an owner ID. And I think we can do this, owner ID of 13. So name, we'll say John, gender, male, age, I think it was 47. I don't think it matters though. So, and occupation was cook. So let's give this a try. We'll hit go. And then we'll look in the owners. And okay, so we did fix this. Now let's try to run that command of inserting all the pets again. So I'll hit paste, insert into pets, all of these pets, and then now we'll hit go. Okay, and it works. Awesome. Okay, so now let's try to delete an owner again. So we hit delete, hit OK, and now we're not able to delete the owner because the foreign key constraint fails. So we have to delete the pets first. So let's go back to pets. Let's delete all of the owner IDs of 13. So the pets with the owner ID of 13. Deleted those, and then there's two more down here. So I'm going to delete these. Okay, so now let's try to delete the owner again. So go over here, click delete on the 13th ID of owner, and it works. That's because we don't have any more pets for him that would cause invalid data if he was to be deleted. So the other alternative is to have it so the user, if the user is deleted, then the pets will be deleted too. And so if you want to set it up that way, you would have to either delete everything and start over again with these two tables, or we can actually alter the table. And so I'm going to do that. I want to show you how to alter the table. So you can alter the foreign key constraints. So let's go to the SQL tab, and then we're going to, first thing we need to do is get the constraint name. So the way that we get the constraint name is show create table pets. And so if we hit go, we get this information here, but if you click options and full text and go, you can see the full text. And so we get this constraint name that's named pets underscore IBFK1. So that's the constraint that we need to drop. So I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to go back to SQL, and we need to alter the table and drop the foreign key pets IBFK1, the one thing that we just copied. So I'm going to say alter table pets drop foreign key pets IBFK underscore 1, and then we'll hit go. Okay, and so that dropped the foreign key, and then now we can try to drop an owner again. So if we go over here, well, let's actually go to pets. Okay, so owner ID of 11 here. So let's delete whoever the 11th ID is. So over here, owners. Okay, I'm gonna try to delete it, and it works. And then if we go back over to pets, we still see that owner ID of 11 is still there. So that's a good sign that we dropped the foreign key constraint. So now we need to update by adding a different foreign key constraint. So we're going to go back to our SQL now, and we're going to alter the table again, and we're basically just going to add the foreign key with our preferred referential action. So this time we want to delete Cascade instead of prevent the deleting from happening. So we're going to alter table pets, add foreign key owner ID, references owners owner ID, and then on delete we're going to cascade. Okay, so I'm going to hit go, and it's not going to let me do it because we once again have an owner in the database, or a pets in the database that are invalid. There is no owner ID of 11 anymore, so we have to delete these records now. So owner ID of 11, we'll get rid of that. I'm going to control F for 11. So we need to get rid of this one and this one. So now let's try to run that code again. SQL. And then I'm just going to paste it in here at this point because we've already written it. So alter table pets, add foreign key owner ID, referencing the owner's tables, owner ID column, and then on delete cascade. So we hit go, and it works. So now let's try to actually delete an owner and see what happens to the pets. So if we go to our pets, we can see an owner ID of 7. So let's delete the 7th owner. So we'll go over here and we'll delete 7. Okay, and then let's go back to pets, and we don't see the pets with the owner ID of 7 anymore because when you deleted the owner, the pets got deleted too. And that's because we set on delete cascade. And so again, you can read more about the referential actions in the documentation. In this section, we're going to cover many-to-many relationships, and this is pretty straightforward now that we understand foreign key constraints and one-to-many. So basically the only difference is with many-to-many relationships, we have a middle join table. And so in this example here on my blog post, we have a students table, a teachers table, and then a students underscore teachers table that joins them together. And so if you look at the students teachers table, it's just the 2 foreign key fields, and then you can kind of like draw a line to connect each each connection. So we look at student ID of 1, which is Alex, and then we see that he's in 1, 2, 3 classes because there are because number 1, his ID, shows up 3 times in the student ID column and the students underscore teachers column. And so then if we look at the corresponding teacher ID, we can see which classes he's in. So he's in class with a teacher ID of 1, 3, and 2. So he's in assembly language, calculus 2, and what was the other one? Painting. So basically just follow the lines, and that's essentially what one-to-many or many-to-many relationship is. It's just 2 one-to-many relationships with a join table. So let's go ahead and set this up. We're going to use students, teachers, and classes as an example, or I'm sorry, students and classes, and we're going to create some tables. So here in the SQL tab, I'm going to create table students and student underscore ID int not null auto increment. We're going to give him a name of varchar 20, not null, degree of varchar 20, and we're going to set the primary key to equal student underscore ID. And then for the foreign key constraint, we're going to make sure the engine is equal to NODB. Okay, and then the next step is to create the classes table. So I'm going to say create table classes, and then we're going to give it a class underscore ID int not null auto underscore increment. Give it a title of varchar 30 credits tiny int, and then a primary key of class underscore ID. And then once again, we're going to make sure the engine is equal to NODB. And then a semicolon at the end. Okay, so we're going to create the students table and the classes table. You can go ahead and copy that and save it somewhere if you want. But here is our table creation. So now we can insert students and insert classes. And so I have some code that I'm just going to copy and paste to insert some records so we can play with them. Insert into students. We've got about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or so records. Oh, and I forgot the semicolon. Sorry about that. Okay, so we've added a semicolon here, and then inserting into classes, we've inserted about 6 or so classes. So I'm going to hit go. Okay, so the students and the classes records or rows have been inserted, 7 rows each. And then now we need to create the join table. So we'll go back to SQL, and we've already talked about foreign key constraints in the last section, so I'm going to just go ahead and create the students underscore classes table. So with the correct foreign key constraints. So create table students underscore classes, and then ID int not null auto underscore increment. We need a student ID and a class ID because those are the two tables that we're joining together. So student underscore ID int not null, class ID int not null. They're both mandatory. And so then we're going to say the primary key is the ID field. So this is just, to see how many records we actually have or how many connections. So primary key is the ID, and then we're going to have 2 foreign keys. So the first foreign key is going to be the student ID. And then we need to say, okay, well, what table and what column does this student ID reference? It references the students tables student underscore ID column. Okay, and then that's it for that. Then we have another foreign key though, so foreign key class ID this time, which references the classes table's class ID. And that's it. Well, okay, other than the engine. So engine equals nodb semicolon. You can go ahead and copy this and hit go. And that creates our students underscore classes table with the by default restricting of the foreign key constraints. So I cannot delete a class unless there's no relationships in the join table. So again, if that doesn't make sense, go ahead and take a look at the previous section. So we have our students classes table, and then now we need to insert some relationships between the students and the classes. So I'm going to go back to the SQL, and I'm just going to paste in this code here. Insert into students classes, student ID, class ID. So in the students classes, again, this is just holding the relationships between the students and the classes. So the student with the ID of 1 is in the class ID of 1. Student ID of 1 is in the class ID of 3, etc. And so we go down the line to see all of the classes the students are in, or all of the students that are in each class, however you want to picture that. So we'll hit go, and we've got 24 rows. So 24 relationships between the students and the classes. So now we can start querying for this kind of data. So the first thing I want to do is I just want to do a select all from the students where student ID is equal to 1. So let's just get the student information on the first student. So we get the student ID, name is Johnny Boy, and then the degree is biology. So if we want to see all of the classes this student is in, we can do an inner join onto the students classes table. So let's say select from students, inner join, and then inner join these students classes on the students.student ID equals to the students classes dot student ID. And then only get where the students.student ID is equal to 1. So basically we're getting everything from the table. We're joining the students classes onto the students table, and we're setting the match to be the ID of the student to the student ID in the students classes table. So that way we can see all of the class IDs that the student is in, and we only get where the student ID is 1. So hopefully that makes sense. We'll hit go, and we're going to see Johnny Boy like 4 times, and we're going to see all the classes that he's in. So 1, 3, 5, and 7. So these, now we just need to do one more join to get the classes table. That way we can see all of the class details that Johnny is in. So let's go ahead and I'm going to copy this SQL and paste. Okay, so let's go ahead and reformat this. So select star from students, inner join students classes on students.student ID equals students classes.student ID, where students.student ID equals 1. So we have all that, but we need to do the other join. So we're going to, after joining the students classes table, we then have to join the classes table. So inner join classes on students underscore classes dot class underscore ID equals classes dot class underscore ID, where students dot student ID equals 1. So this is going to get us the classes table as well. So it's going to join it. So it's where you've got two inner joins here. So if I hit go, now we're able to see the class details as well. And so you can reverse this, and you can just you can do the same thing with the classes as well. You could just say, okay, well, let me get all the students in the class. And it's literally just the same thing, only backwards. And if you want to see the code, I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste it real quick. Oops. Okay, so here we go. So if you wanted to get the students.name, the student's degree, and then the class's title, you can also go backwards. So from the classes, and then inner join on the student's classes, on class ID, inner join students, etc. So we'll hit go. And then we can see the name, degree, and the title. And so really, there's a lot of different ways that you can query for data. It's just a matter of understanding the basic concepts of joins. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that code in the blog post for you to work with. But let's go ahead and try to delete some records now. So if I go to the students, say the student graduated. So I hit delete. It's not going to let me delete him because he's still in the other class. So, or in a set of classes. So we need to actually adjust our foreign key constraints if we want to automatically delete the contents in the students underscore classes. So what we can do is we can go basically do the same thing that we did in the previous section, which is altering or dropping and re-adding the foreign key constraints. So to do that, show create table students underscore classes. We'll hit go, and then options, full text, go to see the student's classes name, constraint name. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this, and then we can alter the table to drop the foreign key constraints. So alter table students underscore classes, drop foreign key, and then the backticks, students classes IBFK1, which is the result of what that show create table thing got us. So we'll hit semicolon, and then I'm going to copy and paste this. And then I'm going to change this to 2 because those are the two names. So we've altered the table here. Okay. And so the constraints have been dropped. So that means we can now delete students and we can now delete classes. And that would leave bad data in our students classes table. So we need to alter the table, alter the join table again to re-add the foreign key constraints with the correct setting that you want. So in my case, I would say that we could do on delete cascade. So if it deletes a student, it will delete all the students' classes relationships for that student as well. So let's alter table students underscore classes, add foreign key student ID, and then the table that this foreign key represents. Again, remember that we're adding 2 foreign keys to this table because there are 2 foreign keys as columns. So we have a foreign key for students and a foreign key for classes, and hopefully that makes sense. So add foreign key student ID references the student underscore ID, and then the setting basically, so, or the referential action. So I want to on delete cascade, and then the other foreign key, add foreign key class ID, and then references the class table, so, or classes table, and the class ID in the classes table. Okay, and then what do we want to do? We want it to cascade delete as well. So on delete cascade. Okay, and that should be it. So I'm gonna hit go. And so now we've re-added the foreign key constraints, but this time it causes deletions instead of preventing the deletion from happening. So now let's pretend our students are graduating. So I'm going to go to the students' classes, and we see 24 total queries. So let me delete a student. So I delete him. And now if we go to students' classes, we only get 19 results. So if I delete this second student, students' classes, now we get 12. Students, let's delete 2 at a time. And now students' classes, we get 8 results. Okay, and now I'm going to delete just the rest of them. And then look at our students' classes, and we have 0 relationships because all of the students have been deleted. So there's no more students in any classes, and the students' classes relationships have been deleted as well because of our on cascade delete. So that's it for the beginner SQL crash course. There's definitely a lot more to learn, but you can do a lot with what we've covered in this video. Thank you for watching the video. Please subscribe to our channel and click the bell to be notified when we release new tutorials. Also be sure to like the video and leave a comment to let us know what you think. Lastly, check out the link or links in the description. We usually create a blog post to go with the tutorial, and we might have a newsletter or course or something to check out as well. Have a good day, and I'll see you next time.